That's the gist of it.
Okay, yeah, essentially it's okay to disagree, but not okay to be disagreeable. Yeah, this is not the right set, it's just, but basically, open communication, clarity, respect for whoever is speaking, don't talk over each other. The chair will run the meeting, and if there's multiple questions, we'll stack them up and take them one at a time. Basically, good conduct. How's that? Okay, so since we have guests tonight, let's do a round of introductions, and we'll let you two go first, and then we'll chime in.
So, for the record, Sam Poisey with Meridian Land Services. I'm the civil engineer representing this application.
Tim McGibbon, one of the principals, owners of the project in West Road.
Michelle?
I'm Michelle Hammond, and I'm the land use administrator of the town.
I'm Ken Stern, I'm the chair, but Kelly presides.
He likes to delegate the work.
I do the work between the meetings.
That's amazing.
We need to talk.
I'm Charlie Comey, I'm the only alternate for the constitution.
Beth Blair, we've met a couple of times on one of the board of selectmen and also the board of selectmen rep to the conservation commission.
I'm Kelly Short, I'm the vice chair, and as I said, Ken delegates the running of the meeting to me.
I'm Lance Messenger, I'm the treasurer of the Conservation Commission.
Audrey Plum, member.
Steve Saran, voting member.
Great. And our agenda calls for doing the minutes first, but I think we'll put those aside, so you don't have to listen to us go through that. And invite you to go ahead and make your presentation. Can you give me an estimate about how long the presentation part might be?
It can be as short or as long as you want. So the main reason why we're here is to discuss open spaces and uses of the open space other than it remaining undisturbed.
Right.
As required by the zoning to have consultation with the Conservation Commission ahead of time. Or I could give you the full synopsis of the project, or I could give you kind of more of a 30,000 foot level, whatever the
Okay.
board
Here's what I'm gonna suggest. I made a few notes about the things that I think the planning board is particularly looking for our input on, so I'll read them out so you can all have it fresh in your minds. And then if you could give us a 30,000 foot explanation of what the project is, and then we can dive into the more particular things about acreages and how much open space and where it is and what's included. Yes, so the things, hello Bob. The things that we all will be planning to give input to the planning board about is whether certain particular parts of the land of the project should be included or excluded from the open space acreage, and that includes the pump house, the access road, and stormwater basins. Whether or not open space needs to be contiguous, because I believe there's some parcels that are not quite contiguous to each other. And I guess that I've got a lot of other more detailed questions, but I think that is the most crucial points that the planning board is looking for our input on. Exactly what can be accounted into the acreage for open space for the project. And then also some issues related to disturbed land and whether that can be included as well. Welcome, Bob. You want to introduce yourself and then?
Hi, Bob Steenson, Conservation Commission.
If I could pause for a second, Bob, do you want to come around this way and Steve too, so you can actually see the maps and things as opposed to craning around? There's plenty of room. And that way-
I could be here if you want.
No, that's okay. Bob will come in.
I can be on that.
Sorry to disturb, but everybody likes to see.
Sorry I'm late, gang. I was in Canada this morning, 4 o'clock tomorrow.
No, Jesus.
Thanks for coming.
There we go.
Okay, so let's give an overview of the project and then we'll get into the details.
So we're currently before the planning board for a mixed-use cluster subdivision. as allowed by the zoning ordinance. And just a quick note, we are still operating under the 2024 zoning ordinance as we submitted this prior to the changing of the current regulations. So we are focused on the 2024, not the current 2025 zoning ordinance. So any discrepancies in that has kind of caused some confusion through the planning process, but we think that we've worked through those in our last meeting. We were very thankful how productive that was. So the 30,000 foot view is we're seeking to cluster our residential portion on the front third of the property and then reserve 2 areas for future commercial uses. That being that front area, which is about 1 acre, and then the rear portion, which is about 5 acres. These concepts on those areas are just to prove that those are developable. It's a very pleasant site, it's very flat, it's very optimal for commercial development, flat, sandy, large depth to seasonal, makes it very interesting for commercial development in the future. To abide by the cluster regulations, we obviously have to have open space. The minimum requirement is 50%, and under the 2024 regulations, it's very vague on what the requirements of that are. It doesn't say that it needs to exclude wetlands, it doesn't say that it needs to exclude steep slopes, all it says is that it needs to remain undisturbed and it needs to be 50%. The board has brought up some concerns of whether it needs to be contiguous or not. We've heard those concerns and we've done our calculations in such a manner that, sorry Tim, one of those unconnected areas was in this corner here. One of those unconnected areas was here originally, but we've since done some maneuvering to move some of the units out of this area and put them here. They originally were located on this new stormwater content. So we've gotten rid of any of that contiguous conversation. The next portion to create the largest commercial pads available, mostly related to this one, is can we have some overlapping uses of the open space? And that being, we're proposing stormwater and we're proposing the community well pump house and the community well access road. And we purposely picked those because they're more of a passive use, they're not an active use, so. The well, as required by regulations, does require the whole well radius to be in an undisturbed area. It requires it to not have any development in it with exception to the pump house and exception to the road to create it, so. We have to put it in the middle of the open space. And it just so happens that there's a great upland location centered around the wetlands for that well and pump house to go in. We do have to cross one section of wetlands to get it in there, but we believe that this is an appropriate use that could be allowed within the open space. Additionally, we have our stormwater basins located within those areas. Again, it's a passive use. It doesn't, the systems that we are proposing are infiltration basins, so you're really just looking at a pond that will be wet during heavy rainfalls and then it will infiltrate into the bottom. The only uses that will occur in there is maintenance of it, to where you'll mow the pond to make sure it's not filling up, you'll clear debris and settlement and such. Other than that, it will visually be a passive use. So with discussions with the planning board, they seem to be okay with those uses being in there, and I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but that seemed to be the opinion of it, other than they wanted to hear what the Conservation Commission, if they had any concerns related to it. So really with that, that's the majority of the presentation, other than I just would like to point out that all of the wetland areas are within the open space lot. The majority of the existing trees are within the open space, with an exception of there is a cluster of trees here that we are going to remove for development, but the vast majority of the trees are staying within the open space.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a few questions for clarification and then we can go around and start. have you had a wetland scientist delineate the wetlands that you have? Have you done that yet?
Yes, actually, two wetland scientists have. I don't remember who the first one was, but for us to take on the project from the previous wetland scientist and surveyor, our wetland scientist at Meridian Spencer Tate had to go out there and verify his flags that were there. He verified the flags and deemed that he was in agreement with them for him to be able to stamp the existing condition plan.
And in terms of, I know 50% is minimum is required, tell me about the total acreage of the project, the total portion you're going to build, what the balance is, and how, so we can see how close you are to those numbers.
Yep, so the overall property size is just over 34 acres. There are approximately 5 acres of wetlands located on the site, just over 5. That brings the net tract area to 29 acres. When it relates to open space, we're required to have 2 acres. We are providing, with our inclusions of the stormwater basins and the access pond, or the access to the pump house, we are providing 18.4 acres. If we're going to strictly adhere to no disturbance areas being included in that, that would bring the open space down to 16.3 acres. And I can go into the specific acreages of each pond and stuff if you'd like me to.
And so the difference there between the 17.2 and the 16.3 would be if you excluded the road, the pump house, and the basins?
The difference between the 18.4 and the 16.2.
Okay,
So the 17 is what's required,
Oh, yeah.
the 18.4 is what we're providing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 18.4 minus the road, minus the pump house, and minus the catch basins equals the 16.3.
Yes, I just wanna make sure I'm clarifying that this access road here,
Right.
not this road.
Right, and that larger access road to the commercial space in the back is completely
It's not
excluded from
included in
the open space.
Yeah.
Alright, so I think those are the facts that we all need to have. Let's see what questions members may have. Ken, do you want to start?
Well, I noticed it's been reconfigured from what we saw, that you moved the retention basin and that sort of did away with a big cut slope or fill slope there.
Yeah, so that was on our original plan, the fill numbers were quite too much to where it wouldn't have been a feasible project, and my clients asked me to see if I could come up with a way to reduce the fill quantities, and it was actually their suggestion of, could we move those units over to here and put this pond here? And in doing so, I could really lower this road down, so that way it could get into here, so I didn't have to try and get all that water over to this basin over here. So it allowed me to drop it down to pretty much have a net zero of imports versus exports.
And actually, a nicer view too.
Yeah.
For those of the houses, not the way to see it.
I have some questions. I've been involved in land conservation for a long time, and one of the issues is monitoring the open space to make sure it stays open. Would the condo association be responsible for that?
Yeah, so we will have to put language within the condo documents to identify that they do have to monitor the open space. And then it will be kinda up to the town to make sure that they're monitoring it. So in some cases, I've seen where HOAs have to submit yearly reports and so on, but that would be basically what we're looking for, to have a discussion on.
Because one of the issues, especially, there are gonna be families there, kids are great, but they're active, and they like riding their bikes and mountain bikes and zooming through places, so would that be up to the HOA or the condo association to make sure that they're not?
I think that would have to be set within the condo association bylaws. And whether or not you actually restrict access from it is a discussion of this board and the planning board. I tend to not like to restrict access to open space, mostly because like myself as a kid, I love going in the woods and you catch frogs and stuff like that, and that's probably why a lot of you guys are on the conservation commission, right? That being said, there probably should be some mechanism in place to, one, probably keep motorized vehicles out of there, if you're thinking about kids dirt biking and stuff like that. Two, making sure that they're not damaging the ecosystem that you're trying to preserve. And I would imagine it could be done similar to, if you leave your trash cans out in an HOA, you get a fine. So that would be one way that the condo association could monitor and restrict certain activities within there.
Can I have a clarifying question maybe based on your question, Ken? This is open space, this is not conservation land.
Correct.
So open space in many developments includes you could put playground in there, you could have trails, you could do a lot in it, because it's not considered conserved land, it's open space available for recreation, so. I can see where you might restrict motorized vehicles, but it's not a conservation land. So it would be, it's open to the people who live there to kind of do whatever they want as long as they don't develop.
Although, can I respond to that? I knew this would be something we would talk about, so I went to the master plan and found the definition of open space. Seemed like it's something we might rely on. Open space consists of land that has not been developed or devoted to transportation, housing, business, or developed recreational activities. This includes the forests and fields that surround the homes, which is not really relevant to this. Well-planned, developed outdoor recreation areas such as golf courses, swimming beaches, and playfields are not categorized as quote open space, though they do contribute to the quality of life in Canterbury. So that's what our master plan says.
And I'm kind of in between there, where I don't know if a definition in the master plan directly relates to the zoning, but to kind of both of your points there, in the zoning, it does say it needs to remain undisturbed. So a playground probably wouldn't work unless this board accepted a playground
Right.
and unless the planning board accepted a playground.
Yeah.
So yes, we could,
Undisturbed and not.
but no, we can't.
Fair enough.
So there is no playground or common area planned for the development.
No, there's not.
Alright, other questions from anybody?
I have a couple, but I'll jump in.
You're on, go ahead.
So the dry pond for stormwater, where are you you're picking up stormwater from, I assume, the paved areas and the roof runoff of all the structures? Are you picking up anything off the road?
The access road to the well?
No, off West Road,
Oh, West Road?
yeah.
Generally not, there's a little bit, but not really, really nothing.
So I assume you're doing underground piping and catch basins to pick it up and funnel it back to the dry pond?
Yeah, so portions of it is kind of in between open drainage and closed drainage where it's just curbing, that's flowing it down to this basin here. However, this section here is closed drainage with curbing and catch basins that bring it down. And then we are leaving a stub available here for this site to, once it gets developed, it can connect its stormwater system into it. And we accounted for 80% impervious coverages on that lot, which is a pretty high number for a property, just to make sure that our basins are sized appropriately to manage whatever goes on there.
Okay, and I assume your design will include a 4-bay and filtration for silt?
Yeah.
Where you can catch any.
That's actually all these green lines kind of going back and forth there, yeah.
Yeah, and the future users are gonna want that anyway, it's a lot easier to clean 4-bay than it is to dig the pond out again.
Exactly, and we typically spec deep sump catch basins just because of, for those same reasons. We also are going through we haven't gone through it yet, but we're preparing to go to AOT for our stormwater permit, which requires all that stuff that you're speaking to.
Yeah, and so what's this, has anyone designed the pump house yet? What are you using for footprint, size wise?
We haven't designed the pump house yet, though.
Okay, so Spruce's pump house has grown over the years, it's the 16 unit.
Oh,
right here in town, and it has a well and a pump house out of the back. So I assume for that many units, you're gonna need a pretty sized storage tank. So if you haven't engineered it yet, plan on having a large storage tank.
You have started talking to Bruce Lewis, so.
Bruce Lewis, we decided we engaged
Oh, okay.
Bruce Lewis a little bit, so
Oh, yeah.
we're in union stage.
Use Bruce Lewis with the Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows who's.
Yeah, we had some hurdles we had to get through earlier on, but I think we're far enough along where we can start engaging some other engineering services.
Okay, I mean, generally speaking, a wellhead and a pump house is it's pretty benign, they're not huge structures, so they, I don't think they take away tremendously from the open space.
It's gonna be like a shed.
It's gonna be like a shed the size of this building.
You can make it architectural.
Yeah, we'll make it architecture.
Meet the farm, the whole kind of farmstead that we're.
Trust me, it's gonna be a shed the size of this building.
So I wonder if we should take, I feel like there are three issues, like, do we think that the pump house is okay in the open space? Do we think that the access road to the pump house is okay in the open space? And do we think that the basins are okay in the open space? And I propose we take them one at a time, have
I still
discussion
have
on
some
them.
questions.
Oh, sorry, Audra, you're on.
Okay, you all set? The grading for the site's already been developed,
Yes,
so you figured out the grading for the road that leads to the back part of the property?
so. Yeah, so generally, this site has a high point here, and it kind of pitches around this way, and then the site slopes downward this way, but we have graded in this road through there. We're kind of thankful that the Hall Road that DOT created way back when is a decent width. There is some grading that would need to occur as this road kind of dips down to get back to this low point here, but the majority of that tree, the majority of the trees here will remain, and we're trying to keep them to remain just to kind of keep as another visual and sound barrier.
Because the point of the question was to check to see where the grading limits ended in relation to the concert, or to the open space.
Yeah.
Is it all outside of that?
There is a sliver, there's probably about 10 feet right in this section right here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for telling us about the well radius requirement, because otherwise I was gonna ask you why you couldn't put the well somewhere else, if that was that.
The best place would be right smack dab in the middle of the development, everyone has equal pressure and you're all good, but.
And I suppose moving it over to the southeast wouldn't work either, if it, cause then you gotta pump it all the way along the road, over there.
Yeah, then you gotta pump all the way
Right.
this way, so, yeah.
Okay,
Is there
I
some,
think that's what's mine.
I'm sorry,
No, go right ahead.
is there some reason for the black line through the map? Does that mean anything?
You found my drafting mistake.
Good job.
Okay. Is this land going to be open to the public, or is,
Right now, no.
no, okay. And no plans for any trails or anything?
No.
Okay.
I don't know where it would connect to.
Yep. Okay.
Could you go back to the previous, and could you just so that it's really clear, from across the room here, kind of trace, what is the edge between, the open space and the developed portion, like where, follow that line for me, like with your pen,
Yeah, so right now it's the green,
right?
so if you
It's
kind of,
clear at that end, it's up where it reaches, yeah,
It
right
gets
there,
to
show
this
me that
kinda-
line,
this
yeah.
point here, and then comes this way.
Okay. Yeah. And do the buildings themselves have a bit, I have no sense of scale from this, a bit of, their own essentially yard space that, or are they gonna be very tightly packed and therefore everyone is gonna be wanting to get out into the open space?
They are tight, so the units on this side have the same backyard that these ones would have on this side here,
Okay. And which is excluded from the open space?
which is actually
Okay.
the upstairs.
Alright, anybody have other questions before we?
Well, related to that,
I do.
well,
When you're done,
Okay,
go ahead.
first.
just the backyards of the properties abutting the open space, how will we know where that edge is? It's a line on the paper here.
I mean, yeah, it is a great point. So typically there would be a bound, I'm not sure if we would set a bound for a condo subdivision. so I don't have a good answer for you.
Could there be some sort of a fence or something, just so lay people could know that, well, this is your yard and this is not?
We could look into that, I don't know, because I don't wanna keep people out of it, but we don't want people mowing it too much and putting their playset in
Yeah.
the backyard
Replace
there.
that in
I'm
the
not talking
process.
about a giant fence,
Yeah.
just something so.
Like even if maybe it was like a split rail fence or something like that, something visual to do it, and you can even put segments that are broken up just
So they can pass.
See
so they can pass through if they want.
Yeah.
The other thought is what we do for property monuments, sometimes you find like the iron pipe, maybe you could set those at the corners. But then they're a mowing hazard and then the
Yeah.
person gets frustrated and rips it out. So the fence probably would be a good idea, and I probably would wanna make it look nice and do it split rail.
That'd be great.
We-
Well, typically some form of a fence is what I see when it backs up to the open space area and this type of development. And
Yeah.
it's something aesthetic, because the homeowners are gonna be
Sure.
looking at it.
And I could see you, not that I'm spending your money here, Tim, but I could see you requiring something along the line adjacent to, like a real fence along the adjacent to the commercial property. Just, while commercial sites nowadays are cleaner than they used to be, they still generate trash, and if there's a thunderstorm that rolls through, and it blows the top of the dumpster open, a fence typically does keep that trash on site instead of letting it go in, so I can see that being a reasonable request.
That section of development would have to come back to the planning board when you know
For-
what you're.
For site plan approval.
Yes.
Seth, you
I
have
do have a question, I'm not sure, and you can let me know if this is appropriate at this time or not, but the size of the well that you have for this development is just to service the water uses of the house, or will it also take care of any eventual uses for your commercial development?
So for this front portion, it would need to service this one,
Okay.
as well. So I forgot what the gallonage of this protected well radius is, but it was like something like 14,000 gallons and upwards, I don't know what the upper threshold is for this exact radius. That was well above what these houses would require. So one thing that we're gonna have to do once we fully engage Bruce is he's gonna actually have to drill the well, test it for quantity and quality, just to vet that there's enough, gallons per day to support what we're doing.
To support the residential, but what about if you need more for eventual commercial, how would that happen?
Yep.
And would that require other structures or wells?
So they would have the opportunity to come off of this, however, it really isn't, it might not be feasible. Or I don't wanna say feasible, economic to do it. And they could probably drill their own well somewhere located on the back portion of this property. And if it's not a public water supply well, they could put that smack dab against their pavement.
And
if
it
they
would be
want.
not in the open area, it would be within the commercial
The
area.
actual well would have to be in the open area, the radius may go onto the open space, but that's just a line on a piece of paper.
And is that okay by everybody, or is that an issue?
I might have heard you wrong, wait, can you say that again? The actual well would have to be within the commercial space, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and then the radius for it might extend into the open space.
yes.
And does that cover any use? I know there's a question that keeps coming up about fire suppression for the units. If there needed to be a cistern, say, to support sprinkler systems, that has not been decided one way or the other, I know at the planning board level. But if that needed to happen, where would such a structure have to go?
So
Or could it go?
So we do have room for like a fire cistern located here.
Okay.
And some over here, while we are kind of reserving this for more of a landscape buffer, there is room here. Then if they need their own fire cistern, they're gonna have to design their site plan around it.
And cisterns aren't fed off the public water supply, correct? They get
It'll
filled?
be filled by from the public water supply, but it wouldn't be, I guess, I don't wanna say that, it could be filled from the public water supply. Or like in a lot of towns, the fire department comes and fills it.
Okay, but it wouldn't impact open space, it could be within the residential, which you've already got
Yes.
carved out, okay, thank you.
Okay,
I have one more
Okay.
question,
take time.
forgot, sorry. The commercial property has a bit of open area that isn't paved or isn't showing pavement. is there an option to make that smaller such that the actual leftover open space is greater or not?
So this is just a
Just an example, yeah,
concept.
yeah.
I wouldn't wanna really restrict that, cause one, the planning board was very focused on, we want commercial.
Yeah.
And so the bigger the area there is, the more likely you could find an end user, and there's more flexibility in what they can do.
Whatever they do is gonna be a destination shop, 'cause it's not like it has drive-by. So it's not gonna be a convenience store, it's gonna be some sort of destination.
Yeah, I mean, if a convenience store worked, the site across the street would be functioning today, but and I do think that they're trying to get it going, right, but
It had a few other reasons.
I vote for Canterbury Racquet and Fitness Club.
Yes,
Yes.
We actually engaged with pickleball there.
Oh, yeah,
final question about mature trees, when we did the site walk the other day, I know the bulk of them are located in the open area. The two lines of trees on either side of the access road to the commercial area in the back, you're going to pretty much keep those as best you can, correct?
the majority of them,
The
yes,
majority.
yeah.
And what about any of the up front where the, I know you said some of the trees would turn out for the residential, will any of the mature trees up front be able to remain, or can't you answer that at this time?
The only spot that I could think that they might be able to remain is somewhere in here, but like I said, a fire
Yeah.
system might go there. And then, it is difficult to keep trees alive when you're doing construction all around them, you have to basically stay outside of their drip edge. And once you compact the roots, it doesn't die today, but it dies 2 or 5 years down the road. But I think we need to get through like maybe one more planning board meeting before we put effort into seeing if we could save those trees, but we can maybe even go out and locate the ones where we think we could save them and see where they fall on the map, and if we can avoid grading near them, we might be able to save them.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, any more questions, or can we get on to discussion of the three different levels? Okay, I'm gonna start with what I think is gonna be the easiest one, the catch basins. Do we feel that it is okay for the catch basins to count as acreage in the open space?
Catch basins, you mean dry pond?
The dry pond, that part in the plan,
Infiltration basins, or stormwater management basins.
that's what they're called in the planning board minutes, stormwater catchment basins.
I call it SDMs.
Anyway, would anybody like to declare an opinion on yes or no about basins?
I'm fine with it. It's gonna look like a depression in the ground with grass growing.
Yeah. Me too? Charlie? Ken?
No.
Alright, that was easy, we're okay with the basins being in. Alright, now it's gonna get a little harder, I think. The well pump, to be honest, is a question that's never come to the Conservation Commission in my decades on the commission, so this is an interesting discussion. Bob is our secret developer in his past life, so he has experience with these sorts of things. Do you wanna share any knowledge with us about what you've seen to be the norm, about whether that's included or excluded places?
Depends on the size of the structure, and you have some design options, right? So you can put your wellhead in, and you can put your pump house relatively small. And then you can create, if you need storage, which you might need storage, because depending on the flow and fluctuation and utilization, you may or may not have what Bruce may say, you need more gallons and you can keep and you have to have a backup. So at the Spruces, we have always had a gallonage challenges, and so we have a fairly large tank. We also have filtration, and it takes up some space. You can separate those two things.
Let's not get too technical.
Okay, you can separate it, so you can have you can have two facilities, right? You can pump your water, you have a small pump house within the open space, and then if you need storage, you can put that out at the edge or outside or on one of your cistern parcels. You know, if you're reserving space for a cistern, you can build an attractive shed-looking structure right on top of the fire cistern. If you need to for your potable water storage, you can do that. So I don't really have a challenge at the moment not looking at it. I don't particularly feel like the pump house and the well system is gonna be a big issue for the open space. Anybody can drive behind the Spruces and look at what's there, and you know, by the time the trees and the shrubs and everything else grows around it, it's pretty well visible.
So it sounded to me like a size problem.
It all depends on what you need, on the answer to that.
Well, I guess you can kind of.
I think if you put in a building this big, you'd have a hard time calling it open space, right? If you put in a relatively small shed, because you have great water out there, or if you don't need a lot of storage where you're actually pumping from, then I have no problem with it. So I would say that if the building gets really big because of that design requirements, it'd be hard to think of that as open space.
I guess big is subjective, is there
It's very subjective.
And totally.
yeah, is there a threshold that maybe, and then maybe it's also landscaping, can you put landscaping around it to where it kind of makes it go away and blends into the background of the tree
You
line?
can do that for, yeah, you can certainly, that's a very doable thing.
And I guess it raises the question of the intent in the cluster ordinance of allowing the increased density when you have the offset open space. Is it, what is its functional purpose? Is it just aesthetics, in which case, if the pump house is hidden by a row of trees, maybe that's great. But to me, just being, I see things in black and white generally, and a building is a building to me. That is a developed space to me. It'll have an impervious roof. Those are the characteristics of a built environment rather than open space. And I'm questioning here because, the ordinance does have, I do have the ordinance here, it does have the purpose to provide for more efficient use of land in harmony with its natural characteristics, preserve larger areas of undisturbed open space, agricultural land, tree cover, recreation areas, and scenic vistas, and protect steep slopes and some other stuff. But, to me, a building doesn't do any of those things. So that's what I'm wrestling with. And I feel similarly about the road, the access road to the.
So I'll go on record as saying a small building in the middle of 17 acres of space to me still fulfills the requirements of being open, that it's a minimal impact to me, it's minimal. If you put a building out there and it was all screened and no one could see it, unless they flew a drone over it, Kelly, I think you've achieved the same proof of concept. So I would worry about it, and the road itself is not gonna be paved, it's gonna be a single track gravel that allows the service truck to get down there when it wants. You could even build it out of pervious pavers, let the grass go right through it if you wanted to do that. So yeah, I'm okay with those features being in what I consider. If it was a 2 acre open space, Kelly, instead of 17, I might feel differently.
And where it's located too, it's all trees, all right here, so we could butt it right up against trees as well, so it's not in the middle. It's actually in a pretty decent location.
Yeah, we can pull it even pretty tight against it.
You can tuck it out.
Yeah, they tuck that in, as obtrusive.
Okay, anybody else, Audra? Go around.
Sure, yeah, I guess it's about the size, if we don't know what the size is, then that's a question. If it's a little small shed, then I'm okay with it too. So I don't know if there needs to be some number or what, but I'm okay with the having a pump house there and the access road. It seems realistic, I've been to the Webster one, and it seems pretty benign.
Lance?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with it.
Charlie?
I don't have a problem with it. It seems like it's not, someone's extra barn or something, it's there for this community to use, and it's not gonna impact greatly the purpose of the open space.
I don't mind the well being there, I think it's the right place for the well. One thing that I think might be useful, I don't know with the exact 0.3 acres and 0.5 acres. I'd be inclined to figure the surface area of the road and some footprint for the building and subtract that out. I mean, it could still be there, but
Not get credit for it.
not get credit for it.
And you have almost an acre of leeway, right, in your,
I don't think that will affect us, sorry.
you okay?
I got something stuck in my throat.
Right.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
Yep, take your time. So Ken's suggesting, the developers calculate the surface area of the pump house and the road, subtract that from what is designated as open space. And do you think mathematically that would keep you above the required 50%?
From what he's telling us, I think so.
Yeah, you're 1.2 acres over what you've got it planned now, so you're not, it's not gonna be a 1.2 acre pump house and a single track road.
Yeah.
So I think you can do that.
And thank you for describing what the road might be, because that was a
Sure.
question I had meant to ask. You know, if it is a single track, dirt or gravel or impervious pavement, with grass growing through it, then to me that comes closer to still counting as open space, because it's gonna look and act like open space. So I think we have, I think we answered both. Do we do the road, do we need to do the road separately, or does anybody want to say anything else about the road?
The road to the pump?
Yeah, we got into, I was doing them one at a time, but we got into doing both of them, the pump and the road at once, so. Everybody's good there? Alright, so I'm going to try to summarize what I think our input to the planning board is. And this is a drafting exercise, so there will be revisions. The Conservation Commission does not object to the stormwater basins being included in the open space acreage. An amendment to that. The commission is concerned about the ultimate size of the pump house and suggests for simplicity, calculating a surface area for the pump house and the road and excluding it from the designated open space to create absolute clarity about what's in the open space and what's not. Does that sound right? And we have a strong preference for the road to be as minimally constructed as possible, dirt, gravel, or impervious pavement. Pervious, sorry, pervious. Don't listen to me when I say
So
that.
concrete, so-
Yeah, it's not right.
check.
Pervious
They do have
pavement,
pervious concrete.
Yeah.
pervious pavement is preferable. Does anybody want to amend any of that?
Sounds fine.
So,
The fence too.
oh,
We
yes.
want-
Like,
we
when you
want-
motion, or is that just a recommendation?
We're just making a recommendation to the planning board.
I would say we would recommend a fence delineating the boundary of the open space in the backyards of the houses.
And it can be a casual aesthetically pleasing fence, we're not looking for a 6-foot,
Split rails.
Yeah, just chain link with barbed wire on the top of it.
barbed wire, that'd be great.
That's organic chain.
You gotta get vines growing on it and
Give it away.
Give bittersweet.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Alright, anything else that we want to pass on to the planning board?
The documents, condo docs are non-motorized.
The who's monitoring
Yeah,
and responsible
Yes.
for it?
Right,
I say
I
when you
think-
forget anything, that's all.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean, the non,
We talk about
yes,
overstays
okay.
or not.
So I think we have a whole issue to talk to the planning board about what's the legal mechanism that is going to restrict this open space to remain open space? What is a designated allowed use or prohibited use? Is that done through a deed restriction, a conservation easement, we don't know what? And then how is the town going to set up such that the homeowners association is responsible for the monitoring that satisfies the town and pays, and that the homeowners association pays for that monitoring. So I don't think those are things we have to make a recommendation on to the planning board right now for your project to continue, but something we definitely need to figure out with them.
So typically in the developments that I've seen, the open space ends up separately deeded, or it ends up with a deed restriction. It frequently ends up with a set zone parcel number. Because basically it gets subdivided out, here's its own part, it gets its own PIN, its own parcel ID, and because in this case it is all contiguous, so you could do it to be a grid looking lot, but then it would be deed restricted, or you could do it within a restriction within the deed, just keep it simple.
And I wanna just say thank you, because we didn't already, for making that adjustment, they then puts all the open space contiguous. Because, yeah, that whole business of monitoring gets a lot harder when you have to go find the little corners of little pieces of parcels scattered around places, so that's very helpful.
I think you guys added it in your new regulations, so.
Thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Anything else, questions or comments we need to make?
I will tell you that I think it's a good project. That I think I like the clustering, I like the open space, I like where it is in town, you know, it's on a state maintained road, it has easy access to the highway. We need housing in town and it's low impact.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that, yeah. We're trying to make it work for everybody, you know, so.
I know you still have a lot of work to do, so I hope it all works out for you.
Having done this for the last 35 or 40 years, it'll never work for
We try.
Maybe this will be a first, Bob.
everyone. I'm waiting.
Thank you for your time for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us come in.
Thank you. Can I take one quick picture of the new, is it okay if I just snap one picture of the new,
Go right ahead.
Alright, I'm sure we have it, but I'd like to get the.
You actually don't.
Oh, well,
Okay. You're even seeing it before the planning board.
this is
First
moving
one,
those
first
to there
Close,
is,
it's right off, you get
It's
off,
good.
it's off, you get off, and you start to go under, so you go over the highway.
and what happened to the one thing I did, this little square up here is now what? Is that another catch basin?
That's another infiltration basin.
It is.
Yeah.
In the gas station.
That was
I thought it
always,
was
that was always there and and it might not even be required, it's just
They're gonna make them
there, still remaining there just in case if I
Yeah.
need it for my stormwater numbers.
The DOT will determine.
Well, then nobody has to worry about what it is.
I'm gonna ask, you guys, we are still in Zoom and they're, and recording, so the
Okay.
mayhem is really hard to deal with.
Thank you, have a good night, thank you,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
bye.
Why are we on Zoom?
Because they want
They,
the time.
Because it's part of the continuing conversation on the
this
regulated
meeting.
project.
Okay.
Do we stay on Zoom?
It's up to you. Can't turn it. How many people are in attendance on Zoom?
Oh, you can find out?
It is just you.
So nobody cares,
Alright,
just kind of what we thought.
given that nobody is in attendance on Zoom for the first 50 minutes and the meatiest part of our agenda, I recommend that we go ahead and stop recording and